We made it. This is it. This is what we've been preparing for. The big shift. And the next 3 months, it's so important that it's going to define the trajectory of our society for many years to come. So I'll break this all down in a psychic forecast. Firstly, for the rest of July, this is likely to be the most geologically active and maybe geopolitically active period of 2025 thus far, but it's just the beginning. So for psychic forecast, let's dive into the next 3 months and updates on things like what's going on with Donald Trump and world politics, changes in the geology, huge earth changes, but most importantly is that this is the beginning of a big conscious revolution, and I'm going to break this all down of why that's the case. We're going to talk about things like the energetic currents that are affecting collective consciousness and affecting the planet, and how that's carrying out over the next 3 months and beyond that time. So based upon the movement of energies and things that I'm sensing and picking up on, we will give you a psychic forecast. Nothing's written in stone. And the idea is the more we can raise our collective, raise our consciousness and raise the collective, the more of a positive influence it's going to have. And these monumental changes that are taking place, that have to take place, can happen in a less destructive and traumatic fashion. So basically that's what I have for you. And it's all in my notes, so I've got to get down and let you know what I've got. So we'll start out with July. It's currently July 21st when I'm filming this video. If you're watching this before the 24th, this is the time to do a lot of cleansing, like maybe do a interval fast or some cleansing diets, or do some energetic cleansing and clearing in preparation, because we've got a dynamic new moon that's going to kick everything into overdrive coming in the 24th, and I'll explain why that is in just a second. There's several waves of cosmic energy that are coming in at this time, and people that are intuitive, the sensitive, are feeling this. Maybe you've been feeling this. Maybe you feel very different now. Maybe your consciousness is different. Maybe you've had some up and down health. Maybe your body feels different. But this is all a response to the changes in cosmic frequency that affect our bodies, affect our energetic fields, affect the planet, and affect the trends in society, basically. And that's basically it. So the new moon is going to be on the 24th of July at 2 degrees of Leo, in an exact opposition with Pluto, which is basically the lord of the underworld. So Pluto is the big power player of the cosmos. It's going to be opposing the sun almost exactly. You have to go to arc minutes to find a variance on the degrees, basically. Also, Pluto, as well as the conjunction of Neptune and Saturn, as well as Uranus, are all in a conjunction, trine, and sextile configuration, which is a more than even a millennial effect. This happens once every several thousands of years. So the outer planets show us how we're changing generationally and how the energies are shifting on the planet as far as the development of society. So to have all 4 outer planets in a harmonious, positive alignment really speaks volumes to the fact that we're going through a great awakening in our society. And though it may be dicey and hard during the transition, we're coming to a much more of a spiritually evolved society as we move forward. It's going to take a few years, but these next 3 months are hugely defining. So back to the full moon. Or back to July. It's also a 16 universal month. 16 is the number of the tower in the tarot. It's also its symbol in Chaldean numerology is the shattered citadel, and it reduces to Neptune-guided number 7, which is intuitive, which is about higher consciousness and dreams and evolution. But the 16 version is really about tearing down the old so we can rebuild a more spiritual foundation and exposing the illusions and delusions and the corruption, and it's all coming out in July. And it's also going to stimulate a lot that's going on in the earth with the geology and with the weather, coupled with a very large, well, actually it's a moderately large, but a trans-equatorial coronal hole, which basically creates an ionic stream, a shift in the gravitations of the Earth-Sun connection, which, if there's anything unstable in the geology, like if there's a fault line teetering on going off, this energy will help it to go off. And plus, there's likely to be some new solar flares around that time. So between the 24th, because that's the new moon, that's a huge gravitational pull on the planet also. And there's very dynamic astrological aspects that coincide with that. And the number 17, which is about the tower, which is about falling. All the spells, geological changes, changes in the fabric of our society, changes in the earth, changes in the magnetic field. And so, as a result, the 24th to the 26th, we're on global earthquake watch, according to me, and also Stefan Burns, who's a great geophysicist on YouTube. So between my training in meteorology and what I learned from his and other similar channels that cover this, that's where I get a lot of my scientific information. And it's all intuition. So science is validating intuition and vice versa here in this case. So with all the solar activity has an effect on the Earth, basically. So earthquake and volcano watch, it can happen anytime, but especially the 24th and the 26th if you happen to be watching this before that time. So seriously watch Japan. Now, we had a 7.3, then a 7.4 earthquake. The first 7 magnitudes we've had in over 2 months, one right after another. One in the Aleutian Island, right off the Aleutian Island, and just about 14 or 1,500 miles away off the coast of Russia, and then Japan will be the next one on that seismic wave. So we also have to understand there's been a big earthquake swarm around Japan, between Japan and the Philippines. There's been underground volcanoes. There's been a volcanic island erupting that's splitting the island. Plus, there's the prophecy from T.E.O. Can't remember her name. Rio Suzuki, and others have forecasted or predicted something major happening in Japan with tsunami, earthquake, and volcano in the month of July 2025. So take that seriously. Again, these are all probabilities. Intuitively, I feel the earth shaking. I feel these events in other areas of the world also. So generally speaking, getting more active with major high-end earthquakes. But also the science and geology and what's going on with the sun is all validating that. So nothing may happen, but the probabilities are much higher, especially in that 24th to 26th window, but really any time around that. So that's basically it. Now, also in July, big month for floods. We predicted that before the month. That was a highlight of the July forecast, one of the many highlights. Some have verified to date, some have not. But the floods certainly have, obviously. More drama with things like Epstein files. So this 16 tower energy, the 7 Neptunian energy, it's really exposing a lot of what's hidden. What the media tries to suppress, the governments, the corporations, the institutions, things around corruption, global corruption, corruption with politics and finance, and all other things. So there could be news by month end that really puts a question mark around the future of Donald Trump's presidency. So things may be showing up around that time. I'm also seeing a lot of big rallies, big demonstration, like we forecast in July that would uptick. And my gosh, you look at around Europe, and it's been just crazy. It's very revolutionary energy. It's the energy of change. There's a lot of protests. They start out peaceful, but don't always end up that way. But that's kind of a long story in and of itself. So watch out the last few days of July. A lot changing the geopolitical structure as well as the geological structure and other things that are going on, and a lot getting exposed being brought to the surface. So let's move on to August, because that's a universal number 17 month, and that's the star in Chaldean numerology. That's the symbol. It's the star card in the tarot. It's about inspiration, hope. It's very spiritual energy. It's very Aquarian energy. It also reduces to 8. So there's through Aquarius, there's a Uranus component to it, but through the number 8, there's also a Saturn component. So Saturn is really, a lot about the governments, the institutions, things that we have to learn lessons. And Uranus is basically the great awakener. It's the planet of evolution, revolution, surprises, and rapid changes. So that's all active in August. And with the Lionsgate portal being very, very powerful, extra powerful this year, which I'll explain why in a minute, and other factors, huge waves of spiritual energy are really going to change the conscious landscape in August moving forward, which means more people are going to have awakenings. Great time to double down on your spiritual work because you'll benefit the most. Lots of ascension, moving into multi-dimensional reality. We're not just going to flip into 5D from 3D. The work still has to be done, and we still have to create that. But with these higher frequencies that are affecting us, these waves of cosmic energy that are affecting the Earth, the conscious fields, the Earth fields, it's creating a lot of geological and political changes and changes in our society, but it's also bringing waves of awakening and ascension that we can all benefit from, basically. So something to keep in mind in August is when we really have to start watching the San Andreas Fault. I feel like that's getting very active again. Could be a major event there. Be aware, not scared. Just be aware that the possibilities are increasing. If you live in that area, you always know it's a possibility anyway, right? They're also showing possible things like power outages, Southern California, the Southwest. So that may be back on the table. Larger power outages. The Northeast needs to watch out also. Told you to watch out for things like more protests and violences escalating in July, and that's happening. Around LA specifically, and fires and explosions. That came out in the July, as well as the seasonal forecast, so it's definitely happening. And recently is the explosion in the sheriff's department, so keep an eye in that area. Also, big cosmic shifts, waves of ascension coming in. The energy that's coming in around August that's really happening now is not unlike, and the outer planets were all in an alignment in the mid-60s also. So there was a consciousness revolution then also, like the Summer of Love, the hippie movement. A lot of peaceful demonstrations sometimes got undermined by the establishment to make those peaceful demonstrators look violent and to undermine the movement. So we see a very similar dynamic with those forces of repression trying to squash the awakening, but the energy is getting really, really big in that area in August. So new peace movements, new anti-AI movements are probably going to be springing up around that time. Big spikes in things like AI development and technology and medicine. So this is August is a big month for that type of evolution also, like new inventions, new protocols. We really see that AI network really starting to get built and really starting to affect our lives more and more. And that's really like a big part of the month of August also. And the new technologies, medicines in the news, stuff of that nature. And energy also activates the legal system, world politics, money and finance. So we may see world leaders stepping down. Watch England, Great Britain, the U.S., and other areas for that possibility as well. We may see new financial systems being put into place, banks closing or institutes closing, things of that nature. Here in the U.S., legal system gets enacted against Trump, so we may see that really ramping up in the month of August. Doesn't mean he's necessarily going to be forced down, but something to keep an eye on. We've talked more about that in other videos that you can check out, and maybe other politicians also. Lots more corruption, cover-ups exposed, medication protocols around pandemics under greater legal scrutiny, including some of the proponents of vaccination programs and other mandates that came up around the COVID period and things of that nature. mainly a big surge in consciousness. Though. That's the main theme of the month of August, and that'll change the whole playing field of our society, basically. So this can be potentially, if I can read my writing, this can potentially halt or even reduce the increase of global wars or conflicts. So it's an energy more that favors diplomacy in August. Like July more favors escalation, but August favors the opposite. Then September again favors more escalation. But we'll get into that in a second. And also let's talk about the Lionsgate portal because that's an annual event. 8-8 is the peak of it. It's the number 8. It's also 15 degrees of the sign Leo, and it's also energized by an alignment between Sirius and I think something else. I forgot what it was, and the pyramid at Giza. So this has been celebrated throughout the world for millennia, but in the last 20 or 30 years, Lionsgate portals become much more known and celebrated in the New Earth movements and spirituality, basically. So every year we go through this very powerful portal of change. It's very solar, so it's really affecting our things like our health, our well-being, our connection to spirit, our ascension, things of that nature, basically. So this year, though, it's happening on the 17th month, which reduces to 8, so that 8 feeds that numerology. But what's really cool, and I'll get to that in a second, well, before I get to that, also all the outer planets are all in that harmonious alignment, which is ascendance of consciousness. So it's a millennial ascension in consciousness coming out. It's bringing about millennial changes. Mars will be activating this alignment during the Lionsgate portal also to add further energy, basically. But the full moon that's on the 9th actually is at exactly 17 degrees, 0 minutes, exactly 17 degrees of the sign Aquarius, the Uranus sign Aquarius. So again, 2 17s, which is awakening, renewal. It's the star card. It's spirituality. And Uranus, very active. Aquarius, very active energies. This is a huge shift that's happening, and take advantage of it by doubling down on your meditation and your spiritual work to connect more with Great Spirit. Do your spiritual exercises, yes. So huge shifts. Okay, and also another thing, Mercury goes direct on the 11th, so Mercury will be stationing right when Saturn and Uranus reach their closest sextile, which is that outer planet alignment that's helping to change society and raise consciousness. Huge shifts in the energetic fields, etc., going to change the very fabric of our collective consciousness, and the world and society will undergo change with from the roots up, that'll be manifesting in the years that follow. So this is the energy, and then the changes happen slowly over the months and years to follow. We see bank closures or changes in the banking system, maybe a Federal Reserve change, more the crypto bills passing, so more with cryptocurrency, more movement towards digital currency, and which can also be used to watch out also with the AI taking over more and more and whittling rights away and compromising people's freedom. They can literally spy on us basically through this more advanced technology, through our computers, our cell phones. And they have like this AI face recognition that they're using in England and other countries to recognize criminals on the street. But again, you can walk down the street and have your face scanned by AI basically. And is that in the right hands or the wrong hands? I mean, it's great to catch criminals, but it can be used to, for other reasons and to, accuse the innocent also. So, it's something that's really coming up. So there's a lot of energy around that in the month of August. Now, September is an 18-month, which reduces 9, so it's completion. So there's completions of cycles that are happening in September. A cycle of completion. A leadership may end. This could be Great Britain. It could be the U.S. It could be other countries. It could be other offices, not necessarily the president and the prime ministers. But watch out for that. That's very much on the table. Huge storms are being shown. A lot of flooding. Also being this 9 Mars energy could tap into more fires and things like that. So big storms, a lot of flooding, lots of waves. I'm seeing the ocean a lot, but there's also a big energetic purging that's happening as well. So the water cleanses as well. So some changes around the royal family were shown. Vatican images of that are both. Also, eclipse season kicks in September, so that's going to further energize the geology. So we may get a lot of like solar activity that comes up around that time again. Watch Yellowstone and the Southwest, also the East Mediterranean, Mideast, China in the news. But watch out for around Yellowstone for volcanic or type of activity or earthquakes or stuff like that in that area. Now, July was very significant for like the new Cascadia Fault off of Oregon and Washington in that area. Maybe the earthquake in the Aleutians was that. Maybe that's what I picked up on for July. That would be great because that was less consequential. But still keep an eye on that area, basically. In August, we really have to keep an eye on the San Andreas. If I didn't mention that earlier, I'm mentioning it now. I think I did, so we got that. So you see China in the news, solar eclipse on the 21st. That's the United Nations International Day of Peace. There's a solar eclipse happening with the new moon sun conjunction right on the world axis, 29 degrees of Virgo. You can't make this stuff up. So UN Peace Day, there's an eclipse right on the world axis. A lot's going to go down. It may be more of an escalation of war, honestly, but I do think starting in August, the countries will come to the table. Maybe we may even see an end or at least a reduction in Russia, Ukraine, and different ceasefires that take place around the Middle East and stuff like that. So world politics will happen as old world politics will happen as old unstable systems crash and new spiritual energy builds. So a lot of things are changing and crashing as a result of that. And then when we come to October, that's the number 1 month of new beginnings, basically. It's a 10 month, which is the Wheel of Fortune. So good fortune that reduces to 1. New energies, basically. New things are rolled out, like inventions, new laws, new protocols. Watch the new Madrid fault. I mean, watch these faults all year because we can't know exactly where each earthquake's going to happen in each time. It's highly variable. Timelines are fluid and changeable. But if we send more love into the earth, it may mitigate or at least soften some of these geological events or weather events. So the more we raise the consciousness, the more the earth changes can happen more fluidly, that not so many people have to suffer. And then these events that myself and other psychics are picking up on can happen, but to a lesser degree, basically. So new energy, new things rolled out, mentions protocols, signs of splits in society come up. So I think we really start to see that. That would be between people that really want to continue their spiritual development and not be part of like the whole thing with interfacing with AI and this technocratic society, technology driven society that's taking people's rights away, that people getting more and more programmed, and those that are awakened, that are seeing through that want to not be part of that, but rather continue their development in a way where they're not part of a system that cuts us off from our own divinity or higher self, but rather we get to seek spiritual evolution. So I think there's going to be more like organized, like off-grid type of living or organized societies that separate from the mainstream. Now, if the awakening happens quickly and we're able to affect collective consciousness, we might be able to integrate some of these new ideas into this more technologically driven society to create better balance where the technology can be more used for good and less obtrusive and stuff like that. So in other words, the split doesn't have to happen full on, but I think it is going to happen at this point. But again, if enough higher consciousness and energy affects the collective, then everybody may be able to unify and work together, and then therefore the technology starts to get integrated into spirituality rather than suppress it or shut it out, if that makes sense. So anyway, what else? maybe informing. So the degree of the split depends on our level of evolution and awakening. So basically we discussed that. So anyway, for us spiritual warriors, let's get ready. Let's double down on our spiritual practices, raise the vibrations. And the more we raise the vibrations, it raises the collective and it makes the transition smoother, makes it more positive. So double down on your own spiritual practices and develop new ones, basically. Raise your vibration, help others do the same, to feed the collective, to make the path to New Earth smoother and with less suffering. We still have much to get through, but to hold the line, hold your space, basically send love and healing into the earth, into the collective, and become a conduit for Great Spirit, God or Source, to help raise the vibration of the earth, raise the vibration of the collective